Alright, this is actually a legit problem. My backplates don't appear to come off of my motherboard. I don't know how I'm supposed to install CPU coolers now. I could try to risk it and lightly install it as is because the brace does actually fit as far as I can tell. Like if I just lightly pick a corner, the screw thread seems to match with the backplate that's already there. But I do not have much playroom at all to try. So I think I'm gonna try one of these and we'll see if we can get it to attach. This is frankly really a stupid decision, but I guess if I know that going into it, it won't be as bad. We'll see. Subscribe if you want to watch me ruin server parts, I guess. There we go.
Cineform Renderthon, the transcoding build-off server challenge between the Guy or Die and EposVox, where we try to build the best transcoding server for rendering our videos in Cineform for the cheapest price via eBay server parts. Thank you so much to Kingston for sponsoring this series by providing EposVox with his ECC memory, which keeps his build stable and secure throughout the entire rendering process. Visit the link in the description to learn more.
So I've got this right here. I've got the rest of my components over on my bed, including the power supply. I'm just gonna plug everything in, and we're gonna give it a spin. A spin. Whoa! Look at that. What are those? Look at this premium test bench right here. So incredibly perfect. Alright, well, I've got the spider. Oh god, this is so disgusting. I cannot wait to cable manage this thing. I've got the spider hooked up. That's the VGA, which is the monitor, the square monitor of doom. And here's our beast machine of a build so far. And I'm just gonna I have to find like where all these are, because I very briefly looked at the manual, but I don't think there's two individual 2x4s for the CPUs. It's just one, and that appears to be right next door to the motherboard. I think they put them all in one place to make it ease of use for building in server environments. I'm still amazed by the fact that this board can power two CPUs with one 2x4 right there. And I was right, it is centralized. I took a look at the manual. I like this layout a lot better than traditional motherboards because you don't have to like move these cables all over the place. We reach one over there, we reach one over here. It's all centralized. I feel like that should happen more.
Damn it. Well, I almost had an ingenious idea here. I'm really pissed it didn't work. I was going to use motherboard standoffs in place of these standoffs and just screw them into the backplate for that CPU cooler. They worked height-wise. Like if I put them side by side, they're about the same height. But the screws are not screwing into it because they're not the same threading nor size, etc. So close. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you one removed backplate. Shout out to ME1Z on the Linus Tech Tips forum who pointed out my idiocracy in that these were screwed to the CPU brackets. So I've got to figure out a way to keep those in place, but other than that, we are good. I'm gonna try something here. It may not work. It might. It might just save this project for now. Nah, I thought it would tighten. It just falls back out. Damn it. So close. I'm trying to figure out a way to re-secure the CPU mounting brackets. Alright, it'll need a little tightening, but we're good to go. So I'm gonna swap both of these out and, tighten this up, swap that one out if I can find enough spacers to not conduct electricity, and then get me something to eat and take a break. Now, I do have to be quite careful of all of these exposed parts when I am putting in the cooler backplate. I will have to figure that out. But as of right now, we are set in terms of those issues. We'll see if this configuration at all still works for me.
The awkward moment when you go to put in the graphics card and you realize that your platform is not elevated. So this thing right here, those little tabs, so that they can't overhang, rotated it. Take two. I knew this would happen sooner or later. So we have a problem. The graphics card that I picked, it's not compatible with the PCI lane that's on this motherboard. I'm pretty bummed out because this graphics card was one of the good deals, and I have to look up return policy. I'm not sure if it's the one that didn't accept returns. So, problems. Good problems. I'm learning. But I'm also wasting money if I can't return this. So, yeah, man, I'm just going to test it without. Plan A. Plan A.
Alright, these are my sticks of sponsored RAM from Kingston. They have sponsored a couple sticks of their KVR13R9D4, and they're 16 gigs of ECC memory for the server. And so I'm going to put them in slot 1 for both CPUs, and we'll see if that is the correct configuration here. I don't honestly know. So super shoutouts to Kingston for sponsoring this series. Of course, links to them will be in the description below, as always. And of course, DIMM 1A has to be under the cooler here. Couldn't be in any more convenient locale. Whew, that was close. Alright. Bad boy number 1 in. Let's get bad boy number 2. We shall rotate our motherboard here. RAM unboxing is pretty straightforward. You get a stick of RAM. That's about it. That one fit in a lot easier. Alright, so we have 32 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs. We've got a video out, so that should work. So now it's time to hook up, well, the fan first. The fans, we gotta put them back on here, I guess. Alright, we are hooked up in a double push config here, going through the cooler, out the back. Everything fits too, which is very impressive, although fitting a top expansion card is actually going to be a problem, unfortunately, so I may change the config if I need those slots later. And actually I just realized this PCI slot, that's going to cause a problem for graphics cards. Shit. Shit. I'm going to have to get a riser or something, most likely. I'm going to go on and test fit, because I know it's not going to work. I'm going to have to get a riser and hope my case has a sideways slot, because that shouldn't fit, I don't think. Let's get this on the edge here. By golly, it fits! Now that is going to need some dusting out, but it does in fact fit on here. And if anything, that PCI slot will provide extra support. I am impressed. Go Super Micro. Alright, now I gotta get it back out. That's always fun. Especially when this isn't in an actual case. Oh my god, come on. There we go. I did not want to let go.
Go in the trunk.
Alright, power supply is installed. Potential problem number one is this motherboard only has a VGA out by default, and I need to use the onboard out. And so I have a VGA to DVI connector, but I don't have a normal VGA cable laying around for some reason. So we'll see if this actually works. Answer is probably not, but we gotta start with it, so. Yep, it's the dang wrong kind of DVI cable. Alright, my new solution is my VGA to HDMI adapter we're just running off the USB power, which I featured in a previous video. So that should connect it to that monitor. Go ahead and set it to HDMI, and we'll see if it posts anything at all. It might not with this adapter, I've had trouble. Plug that bad boy in. There we give it a whirl. Ha! I just realized I don't have a way to... Oh shit, it just came on its own. Alright. Alright. We'll have to figure out what that means.
Alright, so we're gonna give her a spin. So for those of you who don't know how to start a system without a case on it, basically what we have to do is make sure that your power supply is on, but plugged in. I can hear actually a little bit of coil whine, but I know it's on. The motherboard is being powered, we do have a light right there. And then to go ahead and start this thing, you just have to short out your jumper cable buttons. And there we go. It's in low power mode, and does the screen turn on? That's the question. So it gave one solid beep, but nothing is showing on display. Although it is receiving a signal because it has gone off standby mode. Alright, well there we go. The fans are really loud, but I'm sure you can dial those down in the BIOS. But here we are. It did post. Never really seen a post screen like it, but hey, we're in the shell command line. See if we can get into the BIOS. I figured out how to get into the BIOS. There's actually a screen that I was missing. I have to press F2 on. But I seem to have everything set up properly. I just need to kind of figure everything out in the BIOS because it's a tad bit different from consumer grade stuff. I'm just glad that everything works. That is what I'm happy about. First off, I'm going to set the fans to acoustic for now because these loud fans are kind of annoying me. And I'm going to go ahead and save. I think that was just for the RAM. It has not gotten quieter. There she is, in all of her loud, kind of obnoxious glory. I am assuming once I install the operating system, I will have a little bit more opportunity to kind of figure out why these things are so loud. But for now, that's where I'm going to leave it. I will leave the case, cable management, whatever, rest of the day sort of stuff to later this week. But I'm just glad to know that everything works. I will know to get this figured out now in a timely manner, so if I need to return it, I can. And that's pretty much it, man. I'm excited. I'm really excited. This was really cool. Still bummed out about this guy. But, we'll figure out what to do with him.
Alright, well, we're gonna build this bad boy today. But it's going to be interesting and fun because it's going to take up a lot of space. And my living room is now a disaster just from the test build. So, this is going to be interesting. First and foremost, we gotta get that case unboxed. So let's do it. This actually makes me fairly happy. I was thinking there was some major design differences between this and the other Define R cases that I've used. But this looks just like my Define R4 that I'm using for my main rig over there. So that means everything should go together fairly simply. So this ought to be easy. I've built multiple builds in these Define cases, so I'm quite excited. I gotta say, as a techie and a part-time, sometimes PC builder, nothing is just more calming than the inside of a freshly opened, completely empty, dust-free, part-free computer case. I like it. Alright, let's briefly unbox our Samsung 850 EVO SSD with their 3D VNAND technology, all that jazz. See what comes in the box for us here. I am going to have to order some cable extensions. We'll talk about that in the What We Learned segment later on. But I am running into some power supply issues. Not a huge deal. Inside packaging, we get an envelope stuck to the back. Very premium packaging setup here. Jesus, there's a lot in here. The heck? Installation guide for an SSD. Drivers? And a manual and software. That's weird for a solid state drive. And then warranty statement summary. And of course we get the lovely drive itself, which is about as thin as it gets. Almost, to be honest, almost feels fake. I'm kind of concerned. That is the lightest and thinnest, like, it doesn't feel like anything's in here. So I'm gonna actually hook this up externally to my desktop before I trust it in the computer to make sure it's legit. Alright, for whatever reason, I'm having a lot of trouble getting this
little SSD to be detected via USB. My usual adapter isn't working, and it feels much lighter and emptier than your usual SSD. And so I'm getting quite paranoid that it's a fake or something. So while I eat, I'm running out of options. While I eat, I'm actually going to go ahead and loosely just kind of hook it up to this system to the server system, and just see, because that's the easiest way I can hook it up internally into a computer, because taking apart my computer or Chew's computer would be a nightmare. So I'm going to hook it up to the server itself and just boot it into BIOS and see if the BIOS detects the solid state drive, because otherwise I'm out of luck. As I had hoped, my fear was for naught, as the system does detect the SSD. So I am free to finish the rest of the build for now. I did go ahead and order some extension cables because I'm having to run one of the 4 or 8 pin CPU power connectors up through the front. So I ordered some cable extenders for those, and to turn the USB 3.0 header down here into a USB 2.0, so I can still use all of the ports on the front without making them, or without, having USB 3 support in here. And so I'm ready to keep working on the build. Well, damn, we're already in Windows on the machine. I installed from a USB stick, and keep in mind it only has USB 2. And yes, it's installing to an SSD, but I've installed Windows to an SSD many times. But I'm guessing the dual CPU 16 threadness of it, that was like a 5-minute Windows installation. It was the fastest Windows installation I've ever had in my entire life. That is a very good sign.
So believe it or not, that build right there was actually my first my first Intel build. All of my other builds, for me at least, have been AMD. And I've built tons of computers with Intel parts for friends and stuff, but that is my personal first Intel build. So I'll finally get to see firsthand whether or not the AMD Intel battle is something worth being contested. I don't play into all that. I think if you have a computer and it works, great. Alright guys, I think it's time we finish building this server. I think it's time. Okay, so I just realized that this is going to be a lot more of a tight fit than I thought it would be. And I got my ruler here. I was kind of measuring it out. This one's about 33 centimeters in length, which we need to be. I thought it was originally going to go in like this way, but then I realized that the I/O port's right here, and I was like, oh, better measure this thing. And this looks just under. So we got about 3 centimeters in the back there. I'm hoping that this fits. It'll be tight. It'll be very tight no matter what the situation is. So, I don't know, I guess we'll see. Alright, so I was lucky enough to be able to take out the front panel there. With that done, I should be able to, here it is. It's got a whole bunch of wires attached to it which were getting in the way and not letting me put that in. So now we should see if this will squeeze in after all. I really, really hope it does. Okay, so it don't fit. It don't fit, man. As much as I try, it's just too long laterally. And I really kind of thought layout differently. I thought it would long way this way, but the long way turned out to be this way. It quite literally will not fit. And I don't want to go modding this case. I am probably going to end up having to return it, and I hope that the return policy on this case is not over yet. I was gonna have to do some janky stuff with this anyways, because I did get a riser for the PCI X. It was a PCI X 64-bit lane, so I had to get a riser to convert it to PCIe. So I was gonna have to do a little bit of modding there anyways to kind of get that to work. But I am just really still kind of just bummed out that it's not going to work out the way I thought it would. But I'm glad I did this now, so it gives me time to really figure things out and reorder. I don't know, I might just get this thing booted up again as it is and just install Windows Server 2008 on it so I can get started with that. Dang it! Failure is the only way to reach success. And doesn't feel so good right now, but I'm learning. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a case. Finally! You do not believe how relieved I am to finally have this thing in a case. It is just amazing. Thank goodness. I was hoping the standoffs would be in the right place, and not all of them are. Like, you can see that one right there. That one right there isn't. But all 7 of the others, I believe, except for this one right there, are. So 7 are in, the 4 corners are in, which is the most important part, and then we got one right here, and I believe one right there. So 4 corners plus 2, that is more than enough for me. The only other downfall is that it didn't come with an I/O port. I'm going to probably do something custom for that. And since my graphics card is going to have to go horizontal, I might have to mod either the case or the graphics card. But I think it's time to put in a power supply, boyos. We have a little problem. I don't know how to fit this thing in there. Cable management's going good. I'm just clueless about how I'm gonna get this thing in there, because the hard drive bay, I would assume there would have been some stuff on the wall for me to like ghetto mount it. I might have to drill my own holes, which sounds worse than it actually is, but we got 4 mount holes right there. I could just drill, I'm thinking like right here, because there's nothing else going on right there. It's eventually gonna sit on this side so that I can have air through these things, so air can come up through there and out there, because this vent's covered by the PSU. So the best option is probably have it right here, and the air that comes up right there will just graze over the hard drive, cooling it. So I'm gonna give it a go. Okay, so we don't want any of the metal on the case hitting any of these contacts, so I'm going to rise it up with a little bit of cardboard. That'll just get it off the case a little bit. I know it's unorthodox, but it's the only solution right now.
Next time on Cineform Renderthon.
I got the cable extensions that I need, so I should be good to finish this baby off, and we can do our conclusion video.